looking at the steps that you need to set up the takeoff to work with the drafting uh, team, it doesn't look like there's a lot here, but these steps can take a little time. So make sure that you're giving yourself at least probably 30 minutes to an hour to go over these. It really depends on the size of the project. Like if this, in this case, this job is only one floor, it's actually pretty small, so it won't take us that long to go through. But make sure that you're budgeting enough time to be able to get through this accurately and efficiently too, because you don't want to race through it. If you race through it, you're bound to miss something. It's really important that you take your time to go through each individual line item and proofread to make sure that everything that you have matches up with what's on the drawings and what we're providing for scope. So we're going to start by assigning those print references, and we need to also take in note or take into consideration that if packets need to be scheduled on the job, or if each item can be a standalone print. Sometimes you will have an item that appears in multiple areas of a building, like repeated from floor to floor, and you might be able to schedule that item. But in most cases, that's not the case. It's just something to think about. Um, as we assign these print references, we're also going to be labeling the architectural floor plans and RCP views in Bluebeam too. So let's take a look at that. So before we begin, we need to go back to the job folder. We need to go to contract pricing and pull up that takeoff. Okay, so we're in the takeoff currently. We are going to go ahead and we're going to save a copy of this takeoff right away. So we don't want to change anything that's already in there. And let's go ahead and tell it we want to save this. I'm going to throw it in the archive folder here. And I'll keep the name the same, but at the very end, I'm going to write packets, meaning that we're using this takeoff to make packets off of. All right. So now let's go through this line by line. So the takeoff can be a little confusing to look at. It's nothing too scary though. Keep in mind that most things are going to be grouped by a print reference. So when you're looking at the arcref column, that's where you're going to see a lot of like this whole group belongs to one drawing or this whole group belongs to another drawing. So we're going to start with that. We'll pull this over to the side and we'll look at our architectural prints. So we're going back to the job folder under architecturals and we're going to look at the drawings themselves and see what we've got. So be sure to pull up your floor plan as well. You're going to want that and you're going to want to keep that up off to the side somewhere over here. All right. And then another good thing would be any elevation views that you need, bring those up too. So here, let's start with the first one. So this here looks like we are talking about, let's just verify this, but it looks like this wall is all 5 on A4501. So let's look at A4501 and see what that shows. Let's see, where is view, oh no, sorry, view 5 on A4501. All right. So this is a pretty long wall of panels, as you can see here. We're going to locate that on the floor plan real quick. Okay, so it looks like all of this orange here would be line item group 1. It includes panels, it includes cabinets from the description there. The cabinet itself is kind of a built-in display case with glass doors and glass shelves. We're going to have to look at that here in a little bit, but let's go ahead and label this here. So you're going to want to go based on what the overall encompassing product is. Now, because this says panels and cabs, it's kind of in the air. You want to kind of go with what is the majority stakeholder of what's there. So this is panels mostly. So in our case, we're going to go and label this with a P, and we're going to go P1. All right, I'm going to paste this here for the moment. And we're going to verify that all this belongs to this print before we call it and we're saying we're good on it. All right, so P1, it includes veneer panels, panel with laminate. So we've got a little bit of that going on right here in these display cases. We got lacquered panels, which appears to be in here in the TV digital screen. That all belongs there. We have art rail. Now that art rail does live at the top of these panels. We did see that earlier. It's also called out here too. Um, so we're calling that SP4 in our system, I believe, but they labeled as MTL4. But that art rail lives here, so we're good with that. They have the racks brackets in here, which I believe they live within the display case here, so that makes sense. PL countertop inset, that would be most likely either within here or within there. It's PL2, so we can look for that. PL2 looks like the material used there, so that would make sense. So yeah, all of that belongs to P1. That's panel set 1. So what we need to do then from there is if you don't have these tool sets in Bluebeam, let me know. I will get them to you. But I'm going to take my tool sets here and I'm going to label these as such. So I would try to stick this label somewhere near the title of the drawing. So P1, I'm labeling that right there. I'm going to go back to the plan view and I'm going to label P1 here as well. But because there's a lot happening here, I want to make sure this is clear that P1 includes this entire wall, not just part of it, but the entire thing. So we're going to label everything here as part of P1. That way it's crystal clear. That's what the scope is. All right, let's move on to the next line item and see what we've got next. So we've got east wall. Sorry, I'm going to increase the width of this so I can read it. East lobby wall, which appears to be on print re A4501. Here we go. It's a pretty tall wall. All right, so let's see what we got here. So we got a laminate handicap sink base cabinet. We've got a one-door base cabinet, laminate. We have a refrigerator front, meaning that that panel or that refrigerator is panel ready, and we got to take note of that. We have a trash pullout, which would be this guy here. We have a trash can within that pullout. Great, we have that priced. We have some paneling, it looks like. And then we got a subtop below that countertop. Great. Dogmaka DP3A, we've covered that already. And then this is a very big item here, the solid surface 1, or in our case, QZ1 backsplash. That does look like everything that's in the elevation we're seeing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to label this one as L1 because it's L1 for laminate cabinetry and 1 because it's the first one we've encountered so far. If it was just the backsplash, you could call it a K page for a specialty purchased type of product, but we're going to call it L1 because it's mostly laminate cabinets. All right. So again, I'm labeling the elevation view and I'm also labeling the plan view as to where this is located too. That way it's easy to find what you're looking for. And when we get to doing the handoff meeting in a little bit, we will have all this information readily available to us. Okay, so that's that. Let's move on to the next. We've got toilet room, and this one has 2 elevation views, so be careful about that. It looks like view 2 and view 4. We want to make sure that we're not looking at 2 different rooms too, because sometimes that can be a little deceiving. But let's take a look. So views 2 and 4 on A4501. All right, so here's what you're seeing. View 4 is a vanity cabinet with a countertop and a sink cutout. View 2 is a storage cubby that appears to be most likely built into the wall. So most likely they're in the same room. Well, let's take a look at that again. Oh yeah, they're right there. So 4 is the sink, 2 is the cabinet. So that is called out properly. It's just I wanted to be sure we had two different arc refs that actually were seeing two different drawings then too. Because the vanity itself is, what is that? Oh, it's actually veneer. So because the vanity itself is veneer, we're going to label this as C1. C stands for finished cabinetry. It would be laminate, or sorry, painted or veneer. So C1. And one thing that gets a bit tricky, and I want to make sure that we catch this, is this drawing has two views. When you bring this into Packet Tracker later, it's important that both views show up in the arc reference. So, and the only way to be able to make that happen today is to add 2 and 4 to the arc reference here. So again, just to be sure I made that clear, as you go through and label things, like your drawing and you have multiple arc references per drawing, you want to make sure that all arc references are shown in each of these lines. So you don't want to say 2 A4501 and then later 4 A4501 because the drafter will only see 2 A4501 based on the way it groups it. So I'm going to put both in there. We're going to move on to the next one. This appears to be a panel set, potentially 7A4501. Oh, hey, before we do that, let's label these two. Jumping a little ahead of myself. Okay. Be sure that it's clear as to what you're expecting out of your drafting team. Okay, and I'm going to try to stick this where it doesn't cover anything important. It's always important. Don't cover any elevation calls. Don't cover any important notes from the architecturals. So got an arrow pointing there and an arrow pointing there to make it clear that it's covering both items. Okay, moving on. We are in the lobby again. We're looking at view 7, A4501. It looks like here, let's see, existing millwork panels to remain. Vanish to new to match new paint. Okay. Okay. So this might be a little bit of a hairy area. There are panels here, but they're existing panels, and it looks like we might be refinishing those panels. So we will have to ask Trevor about that too when we get there. But for now, we're going to label that as P2. There may not be any drafting work specifically there, but we're going to find out for sure. Okay, let's go ahead and label the drawing just so it's clear as to what we're doing. So that was, again, view 7, which is P2. And going back to the floor plan, view 7 is in the elevator lobby, and it is, where is it? Oh, right here, I'm sorry. Right there. There's our call right there, and we're going to point an arrow into here. All right, actually, maybe what I'll do is I'll take that arrow and point to the actual panels themselves so it's easier to see what's happening here. All right, let's go on to the next one now. Model shop. All right, this one lives on A4503, so I need to find that drawing. I don't have that open currently. View 3. All right, let's look at that one. View 3 says WD3 high, so veneer. 3 high adjustable shelves. Heavy duty standards with adjustable shelving brackets. It's not actually drawn as that right now, but that's okay. And we do have adjustable shelf brackets in our standard hardware list. So we're actually okay with that. Now, what I'm going to do with this though is I'm going to label this as an L page because these are laminate shelves. So we're going to go with the next available one, which looks like L2. And then again, just like before, we also have to make sure we label the floor plan to show that as well. Let's see, there's the model room, model shop assembly, and we're looking for view 3 on A4503. Right there. Okay, perfect. So it's right on this wall right here. Okay, so we got that labeled. Moving on to the next thing here. It looks like we got a couple of prints on view 4, A4503. That looks like it's this wall right here, according to that column there. 4 on A4503. Where are ya? Oh, right here. Okay, that's not so bad. So this is a, that's an interesting thing. So you could see right here, which I didn't catch that before too, this is calling out a veneer shelf for the last one we looked at. This one's calling out a veneer countertop, but here it's clearly saying that it's laminate. So we're going to label it as an L page because of that. It will be the next available, which should be L3. Must have just been a material change that happened recently. So, but that's okay. We got this covered. Oops, my bad. All right. We're going to find that on the floor plan, label that there. Again, that should be right here. And all this is a floating counter, essentially, so nothing super crazy. Okay, moving on. We've got view 2 on A4503, which does appear to be a larger elevation. Let's see if we can find that right here. Okay, and then elevation view 2 here. Okay, let's check our scope. We have a bookcase here. Looks like we have 2 bookcases labeled. A PL1 base, 1 drawer bottom cabinet. Okay, I can see that over there. And there's 2 of those. Okay, PL base 1 drawer times 4. That must be these. That's fine. That's a little bit of a weird way to label it, but no big deal. Panel flush PLAM self edge. That would be either the legs around this, or it could be the shelving here too. Let's see, we got wood drawer boxes, which should be here. Not sure if they're actually wood though, because it looks like that might have changed too. It looks like it's laminate now, PL1. And then, or it could be referring to the actual drawer boxes inside. It could be wood dovetail instead of laminate or melamine. And then you have the pole there too. Oh, and I'm sorry, I missed this one here. 3 high adjustable shelves times 16. So each shelf, okay, that makes sense. So all of this will be the next L page here. Should be L4. Make sure we do include everything in part of that, so we don't forget any of these. It's really important. All right. And then the last couple, we gotta label this first, and then we can go on the last couple of these. right there. Try to not cover too many things here. I know that sometimes it's unavoidable. You want to try to be careful not to cover up anything important. All right, next up, model shop again, view 1, A4503. Looks like it might be the last item on our list. View 1 is the opposing wall on the south side, or planned south side. And that would be this guy here. So again, let's double check the scope since there's a lot happening. So we have adjustable shelves on the left, which would be ×4, although I think we only have 3. Let me highlight that one more time there, sorry. Panel, self-edge, that's probably the countertop. PL countertop, self-edge, okay, so that's the countertop. Then you have metal counter support brackets, which will be used to support this floating counter here, and potentially this floating counter here. PL countertop, self-edge again. Then we have one door base cabinet, which would be this guy here. 2-drawer base cabinet, these two here. You can see there's a quantity, or should be a quantity of 2, which there is. And then a PL sink 2-door base cabinet with a false front, which is quantity 1, that's that guy. And then more countertop on the right-hand side. So yeah, that all checks out. Looks like that's all laminate as well. Yep. Okay. So that would be L5. And including the pole at the very bottom. Okay. Then at the very end, you might have some in-town parking costs or things like that. Those don't get packets or print references assigned to them, so just go ahead and skip that. From there, let's look back at our list real quick. We're going to take a gander at what we've got there. We don't have anything that can really be scheduled from the looks of it. And our floor plans, aside from the last one we just did, have been labeled. So let's label that last one. And we are going to be set to go. All right. And again, pointing out what all is included in that scope is important because this is a very long wall of scope here. So there we go. I'm going to go ahead and save that. I will go ahead and save this as well. And then at this point, what you'd want to do is once you have the print references in your packet takeoff, you want to notify the drafting supervisor, and they'll go ahead and make the packets for you, put them in Packet Tracker, and then we can move on to the next step. So we'll pause it here and we'll keep moving.